U.S. truck drivers passing through British Columbia on their way to Alaska could soon face toll charges under new legislation proposed by the province's premier, David Eby. The move is part of Canada's strategy to counter potential tariffs on Canadian goods imposed by the Trump administration. Premier Eby announced his intention to introduce a bill that would impose tolls on commercial trucks traveling from the lower 48 to Alaska via British Columbia. Speaking at the Legislative Assembly in Victoria, he described the measure as one of several responses to President Donald Trump's unpredictable tariff policies. "I'm here to announce that we will be introducing a new law in the coming days to address this historic challenge. An unprecedented piece of legislation," Eby said. It will include countermeasures such as allowing the province to apply fees to commercial trucks transiting through British Columbia on their way to Alaska. If implemented, the toll could increase costs for American consumers. However, Alaska Governor Mike Dunleavy urged British Columbia to reconsider. "My hope is that our federal governments work together to resolve the tariff issue," Dunleavy said. "Provincial and state governments should avoid unilateral decisions that could negatively impact federal-level discussions and potential solutions." Alaska State Senator Robert Myers, a former commercial trucker when he's not representing his district in the state capital, highlighted the significant impact the proposed toll could have on two key sectors, fresh produce and the oil industry. "It's going to be a big deal for two things," Myers said. "The vast majority of our fresh produce for most of Alaska gets trucked up. The other major issue is the oil industry. If you need to move something quickly, you put it on a truck, not a barge." Myers noted that while statistics from the Alaska Department of Transportation and Public Facilities show that more than 90% of Alaska-bound cargo is shipped by ocean rather than truck, trucks still transport high-value goods that require fast delivery. The imposition of tolls on U.S. trucks by Canada, he emphasized, would still negatively impact Alaskans. Jamie Benson, executive director of the Alaska Trucking Association, echoed these concerns, calling the British Columbia proposal deeply concerning. "Such measures will significantly increase transportation costs, disrupt supply chains, and raise prices for essential goods that Alaskans rely on," Benson said. She urged provincial leaders to consider their long-standing relationship with Alaska. "We strongly encourage policymakers to preserve the strong ties and shared interests between British Columbia and Alaska, while our federal governments work toward solutions to prevent tariffs." Beyond the proposed tolls, Premier David Eby has instructed the BC government to reduce its reliance on American products where possible. Additionally, provincial liquor stores have been ordered to stop selling alcohol from Republican-led states, including Alaska. Eby stated that he is committed to removing internal trade barriers between Canadian provinces and passing legislation that enables British Columbia to respond swiftly to Trump's executive orders. Earlier, former President Donald Trump imposed a 25% tariff on Canadian goods, a move that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau called a very dumb thing to do. However, on Wednesday, Trump decided to temporarily ease the pressure, granting Canada a one-month reprieve. After concerns were raised, he signed orders expanding the list of Canadian and Mexican goods exempted from the new tariffs, covering items included in the USMCA, the trilateral trade agreement he signed during his first term. Despite this, Canada is pushing forward with countermeasures. Prime Minister Trudeau announced retaliatory tariffs, while provincial leaders have introduced their own measures in response. In Ontario, Premier Doug Ford stated that the province would impose a 25% surcharge on electricity exported to the U.S. Meanwhile, in Yukon, closer to Alaska, Premier Ranj Pillai announced that government-run liquor stores would stop purchasing from American companies. Additionally, the Yukon government plans to restrict U.S. companies from bidding on government contracts. "The United States is our most important trading partner and Canada's closest friend and ally, but this is not how you treat your friends," Pillai said in a written statement. He reassured Alaskans, saying, "To our friends and family in Alaska, our lives and economies are interconnected, and we hope you will continue to visit our territory and experience all that it has to offer. Please know these measures are not directed at you, but we must stand up for our country, our sovereignty, and our way of life." In an interview, Pillai noted that some Yukoners have suggested imposing tolls in response. Residents have also floated ideas such as banning Alaskan athletes from the next Arctic Winter Games, set to take place next winter in Whitehorse, and prohibiting Donald Trump Jr. from entering Yukon. Donald Trump Jr., an avid hunter, has occasionally visited Yukon for big game hunts. However, if tolls were to be introduced, Yukon Premier Ranj Pillai noted that it would require setting up toll booths, hiring staff, and passing legislation to authorize them. Meanwhile, British Columbia's plans remain unclear. Like Yukon, British Columbia currently has no toll stations on highways leading to Alaska. In particular, tolling the Alaska Highway may be prohibited under international agreements. Still, Alaska State Senator Robert Myers believes imposing tolls wouldn't be technically challenging. Truck traffic already has to stop at way stations for safety reasons, and there are very few roads in northern British Columbia, Myers said. That is not hard to toll. British Columbia. Premier David Eby has taken a strong stance against Trump's trade policies. Trump wants to annex Canada and turn us into the 51st state. It's not a kind invitation. That is a threat to Canada, Eby said. He thinks he can bring us to our knees by threatening tariffs. What he's seeing instead is that Canadians are standing tall. While Eby has focused on land-based commercial trucks, he has not addressed the impact on Alaska-bound cruise ships. Any action against cruise ships could have an even greater effect on Alaska's economy. This summer, an estimated 1.9 million cruise passengers are expected to visit Alaska, and under U.S. federal law, all Alaska-bound ships must stop in British Columbia before reaching their destination. If Canada imposes restrictions on cruise ships, Alaska's tourism industry could take a major hit. For now, Eby has clarified that legislation allowing British Columbia to impose fees on commercial trucks bound for the U.S. will not be implemented immediately, but will remain available if required. This suggests that everything hinges on Trump's next moves regarding tariffs. What do you think? How will this trade standoff impact both Americans and Canadians? Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more updates on important international topics. Stay tuned for our next video.